Hey friends, and welcome to MomTalk Maryland. I'm your host, Claire Duarte, founder of the Columbia Mom, and this is your spot for real conversations, local love, and a whole lot of community. Whether you're folding laundry, running errands, or hiding in your car for some peace and quiet, let's dive in. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
So Maria, I'm so excited to have you on today. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to finally meet you in person. That's the joy of doing social media, digital advertising, all the things we'll talk about today. But we've been talking for several weeks now.
Yeah.
A month or two, maybe?
Yep.
Something like that.
We got connected about, probably say a month or two ago.
Yeah.
Sometime this summer, but
it's a blur.
It's relative.
It's a complete blur.
Yeah.
By the way, you are like the cutest island princess. You're so
I don't belong
dark.
in Maryland.
No, clearly, every time I talk to you, you're like, yeah, I'm over here in these other countries. I'm like, yeah, I don't. Now it seems like it makes complete sense.
I'm wearing my new bracelet.
I love that.
It's not really practical, but it's fun.
I've been wanting one of those, but it's kind of this material.
chainy,
but I'm also
yeah.
would it drive me nuts at this? Probably not you. I'm just
You should get it. You should just get it.
I probably should just get it. Where does it attach? Sorry, this is
It's just like a bracelet. So you throw it
You
on
can
the
take
wrist, and then it's on the finger, and it's long enough to where it's not.
Yeah,
I haven't tried to work with it, but I just thought it was cute.
It would be my evening.
Right.
Probably not while I'm going to work. Sorry, tangents. This is what we do. All right. Well, I'm so excited. I'll talk to you a little bit about obviously what got us connected and the work that we're doing. But I'm excited to have you on as another woman-owned, mom-owned business owner. But today we're going to talk probably all things digital advertising, the social space, the web and marketing space. And I think it'll be really cool because, two women, two moms in the industry. I mean, here today I want to talk more about your origin story, because again, that's where I love to nerd out. That's kind of my thing and my shtick of why I got started is I love not only did I fall in love with certain businesses, but it's their owners, right? It's knowing them and their story, their why, you know what I mean? So talk to me a little bit about that. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do.
All right, where to start?
Yeah.
So I'm from Maryland originally, from Howard County. Right? My mom's from the Philippines.
There we go.
Yeah, and my dad's Irish, so there's that.
There you go.
That's the combo. But
there's the Maria part of it.
That's the Maria part of it. And actually, there's a whole Maria Vita origin story, which I'll get into.
That's the second podcast.
Yeah, yeah, right. I grew up here, and I have always been into art and into surfing, skating. I love that whole kind of counterculture.
Yeah.
So that was always what drew me to design and graphics in that sort of that space when I was growing up. And so I ended up studying art and photography in undergrad.
So cool.
I went to MICA for grad school, Maryland Institute College of Art. Studied digital arts there, and my dad.
Is that what your master's was in?
It was, yeah, digital arts.
Very cool.
So my dad's an educator. Both my parents are in education, but my mom was an artist, an art teacher, an art administrator. So that's the back story.
Yeah, yeah.
But I love Maryland. And I also love the West Coast, so I ended up in California in
Very much makes sense.
Yeah, I ended up in San Diego in 2007, so I finished up my master's program. I went to school, undergrad on the East Coast, went to MICA, went out there and got a job at an action sports company, go figure, a water sports company, so surfing, kiteboarding, skate, all that.
Yeah.
Worked in their marketing department as their in-house graphic and web designer.
Nice.
And then I also, because it was such a small company, they were like, all right, you're going to be doing package design and photography and video edit. I mean, all the things, right? And luckily I had that skill set from previous education. Yeah. And a lot of it was just learn on the fly.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So I did and loved it. And then by doing that, I just sort of got some side jobs here and there. Hey, I heard you can build websites. Hey, I heard you can design logos, whatever. Can you do this for me? And it was sort of this just organic start to side hustle, freelance work, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, of course, fast forward years of experience within the marketing world, corporate world. I actually taught high school multimedia and design for 4 years. Yeah, that was kind of weird.
That's cool.
I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
I love the students. I love the kids. I didn't necessarily love the politics of working in a school system, even though it was a charter system in California. But all the while, building up a client base, because again, I continued to just have the skill set that people were like, hey, like we like your work, we trust you, we want to continue to refer you. And so I was just getting side jobs.
Yeah.
And then that essentially evolved into what I have now, which is it'll be officially 10 years in January 2026 of the LLC. So that's like the official, official incorporation of the business Maria Vida, which was inspired by Pura Vida, which is Costa Rica. There's this whole thing. That's another, travel there a lot. Love that place. So yeah, that's the backstory. That's a long-winded backstory.
I love it. So tell us about Maria Vida. Tell us about, it makes kind of sense how there's kind of like the evolution, right, of all those pieces. And I love kind of knowing your background and history, what you bring to that, because we'll come back to that, because I want to talk more about like your just overall thoughts of the social media digital space, and because that's evolved and will continue to evolve, right? But tell us more about what you currently do. What are your kind of service offerings, and who are kind of like your ideal clients and things like that?
I love that question. Yeah. So full service creative and branding solutions. So we do everything from brand strategy, logo design. I think to strip it away, logo design kind of is the thought, that's what I need, but it's more than just the logo, the visual branding. It's the brand strategy, the messaging, the positioning, the tone, all of that. So that's a big kind of component of how I work with clients. And then typically, if a client does not have a brand established already, they typically don't have a website, or their website is lacking because there's no consistency in their branding.
Right.
So a lot of times clients will come and say, I need both, or I need the website to reflect the new branding, if maybe they've worked with somebody else in the past. So we do that. So it's web design, web development, web maintenance support, and kind of like tech support. So it falls under the same umbrella, along with the branding and graphic design. And I do occasional ad hoc work, but for the most part, it's packages, because it fits the needs of the client, and it works best in terms of like what our business model has become over the years.
Yeah, no doubt. And what's it been like building and leading your own agency while also being a mom? Have you found that experience influencing your leadership or your creative approach?
Being a mom informs a lot of the way that I work, I think, because I'm speaking for myself, but I think a lot of female entrepreneurs, especially moms, get into the world of entrepreneurship because they want that flexibility. They want to feel like they have control over something. They already have their babies, their physical babies at home that they're raising, but the business becomes a baby too.
That's what I say. People tell me like, when they hear I have 2 kids, like, do you want more? I'm like, no, this is my 3rd baby.
Right? Yeah. It's a lot of work, and you put a lot of your emotional energy, your physical energy. Everything that you pour into your children goes into your business as well.
Yes, so spot on.
And I think we talked about this briefly. I had a podcast years ago when I was, kind of still at navigating entrepreneurship, and I called it The Engine Mom, because the idea was that as women, multifaceted individuals, we have these gears that all kind of have to work in tandem with each other in order to really like be driven to move forward, or whatever,
that.
right? And so it's like, if you have all these various gears or cogs that like you have to tend to each one of them in some capacity in order for you to continue to move forward and be momentous and be driven to get to whatever the next step is. And I think that that's applicable to parenting and like navigate. Because like nobody knows like what the next phase of parenting is going to bring. I've got a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and so my oldest is just about as old as my business.
Right?
And so like every so often in parenting you have to pivot. Every so often in business you have to pivot, because you're like,
spot on.
Take a step back. You're like, wait a second, this just isn't serving me anymore. The schedule's not working, or whatever it may be. So I feel like motherhood has informed business and leadership in that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to step back. It's also okay to be like, I messed up. Like, check your ego, because like none of us are doing this for the first time. Like, we're doing this for the first time, but we don't have to like reinvent the wheel. The wheel is there, and we just have to figure out what part works for us.
Right. I saw a quote the other day. it was like, something like, be gentle to yourself, because, we're also, while we're parenting our kids, we're also moms and women living in our 30s for the first time too.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's so right. So it was just also about like, it's okay to find joy, and like, not like be selfish, but be selfish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay to take time for yourself and like, go out and have fun and be with your girlfriends and do those things. But yeah, in that same notion.
I resonate with that.
Yeah. Right. It's so important because we need that. So let's talk about the social media and digital space. I mean, I keep saying social media because that's just where my brain goes. But let's talk about the digital marketing space. You've been obviously your business has been going on for about 10 years, but you've been in the space longer than that. And I love that you actually have a whole background in, like you said, the photography, the art, like you're kind of like fully in that. Whereas like, I feel like for me, this is my other side quest is like, I constantly struggle with feeling like an imposter because in my business, because my degrees are not in this world at all, in this field. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I almost became a therapist. I was an executive function coach for like 6+ years. So this was just literally the example of being like a side passion that turned into something else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I kind of love that your line of work has always kind of obviously been aligned with many of your passions and has obviously informed the work that you now still do today.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to speak to, let's talk about the power and importance of obviously branding, but digital. I guess I keep going back to digital marketing, but and what this means for entrepreneurs, small business owners, things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, working in the marketing space in what was it, like the mid 2000s, and then kind of pivoting into a role where I was now in charge of marketing myself. I'll be completely honest. I was not doing any kind of marketing, and I will say this with the caveat that I didn't build my business through your sort of traditional marketing. It was all referral based, but I think that that's relevant because social proof, I mean, the kind of work that you're doing with businesses right now, that social proof, that content marketing, you're taking a story and you're telling it in a way that's going to resonate with their like ideal audience.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, how you become impactful and how you make a difference and how you stand out in comparison to all the other competitors or to other brands that are similar that maybe aren't telling the story the way that your audience wants to hear it, right?
Right.
So, and I'm trying to think back, gosh, because like when we were doing like print ads, we were doing like 75 pixels by 700.
Isn't
I mean, this
that
is like
funny?
nerdy shit, but right. And how do you make an impact at that size, right? Or how do you tell a story when you've got 15 seconds? But I mean, that kind of rolls into, you mentioned social media.
Right, but that, they play together.
They do. And
they do.
I laugh because I love social media. I love other people's social media. If you go to my social media, oh my God, girl, I'm like embarrassed. I was like, actually, so I have somebody working on some reels because I've got like a portfolio of work. The agency has been building websites nonstop, for the last 10 years.
You were booked and busy, which is what we want to hear,
it's a good thing. And I think part of that is like, all right, I know this because I rebranded back in 2024 and it was more just for me personally, right? I was like, okay, like I've spent all this time building other people's brands, but like what I have right now online does not reflect me. It's not my personality. It's not the tone. It's not the messaging that I want to put across. And so I was like, if I'm going to be, saying that this is what I do, I have to do it for myself. I know. I cut some corners, and primarily because like it's time, right? Yes. And like I love the clients that I serve, and I want to have the capacity to do that for them. And sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you feel this way. Like you have to make content for yourself on top of for other clients. Yes. So it's like, where do you find the balance in not burning out?
I know. And I hope you were not asking me that.
That's a rhetorical question for like the universe, right?
I was like, no, I will not answer that question for you. But no, it's so true. And actually, and you said an earlier point about how, you're good at obviously building, websites and digital products for your clients, but also kind of like, struggle with some marketing for yourself. And that's definitely been like my case too. I feel like even now the marketing that I do for my business is still very minimal because, fortunately, yeah, same like, been mainly based off of referrals. Again, the uniqueness about my business is that like essentially my social media is essentially a walking billboard, even though I'm obviously, two-pronged, we're community facing, back-end business to business. But yeah, I can basically serve as just like, hey, this is, you can see a bunch of the content, not obviously all the pieces of content that we do, but a lot of them, right? Yeah. But I think, being a business owner, then it's funny where, especially for me, like obviously I do social media marketing. That's the medium, the content that we're doing. But to flip it and then remind ourselves that we have, going back to that branding aspect you were talking about, is so important to kind of come back to who we are, who are we trying to serve, because your brand is really everything.
Yeah, it is. And I think too, like being able to, you go through the exercises of, what's your elevator pitch, core values, mission, vision, right? And I admittedly will kind of roll my eyes when it comes down to that, but it is really like the crux, right?
Yes.
Like it is so important.
Yeah, of course.
And even if you don't overtly put it on your wall or like have it on your website, if you turn to it and like kind of lean into it when you're feeling a little lost in business, I think that it can help. Yeah. And I'm actually kind of structuring mine or like re-evaluating, because I think it also is something that you should do every few maybe not every year, but maybe 5 some years. I know that's when rebrands tend to happen. Yeah. When like the branding doesn't feel aligned with the existing individuals or whether it's a large organization or whatever. And that's what I find a lot of the work that we've been doing recently has been businesses that have been really well established for years and years, but they are like, okay, now we've got like this whole new like fuse of people that have come in and that have a different type of energy, and like we still have the same quality of work or service or whatever, but we need to kind of pivot our messaging and the way that we like communicate with our clients. That sort of thing.
And I think that's so true and so important. I think we all in business, in all areas of business, have to kind of re-evaluate and re-tick certain spots. In full transparency, like, when Laura connected us, I've been we've finally been consistent with our email newsletters, like I had mentioned to you, and we've grown a lot this last year, and my goal recently has been to kind of update the look of the email newsletters, not to kind of go crazy and so we spoke at length about this, and I showed you some examples of what we're kind of doing and talked through kind of the vision that we have for moving forward. You get this because this is your world too, but I was like, these are my goals. This is where I want to go, but I don't want this to be a 0 to 180 kind of thing, because I also have to, separate from what you do, my team and I are still developing the strategy piece of it that also informs that, while you're also kind of working on the external visual look but function of it, while also maintaining the organization and the flow. And there's so much that goes into it, and that people don't always like realize the details of that and why that matters.
The strategy piece alone, right? Like it can seem very, I want to say not intentional, but I think people can just take it for what here it is, like here's the content that I'm used to seeing, but there is intention behind everything, and like even just like the hierarchy of what's being presented and like what images are being used, what colors being used, like all of that. And you can kind of go blind trying to like really determine like the best strategy, and maybe it's like A/B testing or whatever, but
and it's
a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like naturally as a content creator, I feel like even though we're not intentionally A/B testing with things, like our content literally is A/B testing, because like, okay, that didn't perform well. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's fine. Doesn't mean it was not a failure. It's just like, okay, now we know that we should, we can take all the time to evaluate why didn't that perform as well, whatever. But going into back to the digital space, what are some kind of, whether it's website, whether it's logos, whether it's just if you're doing other types of digital products or something like that, what are some certain trends that you're sort of seeing in this space in your work that business owners should kind of pay attention to?
Okay, so trends, I would say, as far as like from digital marketing and visibility online, AEO or answer generate answer. Oh my goodness, so it's SES search engine answer engine optimization. All the acronyms, right?
Right.
So I mean, I think you posted something about it maybe a month or two ago. ChatGPT picked up something from your blog when you asked it a question, right? So Google's using this. I mean, there's other platforms out there, right? Yeah. So SEO is kind of it's less based on answers specifically and more just based on content that is being searched in queries and keywords. And I'll say this, full transparency, I'm not an SEO expert. I collaborate with SEO experts, but something that I have seen that has kind of been consistent across a lot of my clients is that they're looking for ways to be visible online without having to make a lot of content themselves. Like everybody wants a social media presence, but not everybody has the capacity or the means to have a social media manager or to have content that's like well curated and that's consistent and that's on brand, right?
Right.
And so what I have seen a lot of recently is folks really being curious about, well, how can I get picked up by ChatGPT, by Gemini? How can I get more organic traffic to my website through these tools? And I mean, the tricky part is that like, well, yeah, you can get blogs written by ChatGPT or whatever, but like but then you've stripped away all of the authenticity of your voice and your tone and your brand. And I think that's where it comes back to knowing your audience, knowing your messaging, all of that. So I don't know if that exactly answered your question in terms of trends.
Well, that's something that like I know we like my team brought that to me, and again, like because I'm kind of so over, I feel like I have 8,000 hands in different buckets, but like I'm probably spending the majority of my time in content management and content management, production, all of that. So my team that my girls that do like the blog writing and the SEO and stuff, like so she was the one that brought that to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was going on. It makes complete sense. You know what I mean? That's the evolution that we're seeing.
Well, and you're consistent, because that's the other piece. People are, if I post a blog once a month, I mean, that might not be good enough. And it's very hard because it's hard to balance. And you've got a million other arms of business that need attention.
Right. It's hard.
And where is the juice most worth the squeeze, right?
I know. And again, it goes back to, I hate to be so annoying, but like, it goes back to your business, who's your audience, who you're trying to hit, and then you can kind of talk about the strategy piece of like,
and where do they spend their time?
Where do you spend your time, right? And that's, and that's where you can develop the strategy. And even even to make the point too, if all you can do is one blog a month, just do that and do it every month. You know what I mean? Like I always say, when I'm talking with certain clients or other businesses, like if all you can do is post once a week, I want you to nail that before we try to move the dial even a smidge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think I myself too, like I get overwhelmed just as easily about like, now I post, a couple times a day, and that's very different than that looked, even different a year ago, you know what I mean? But you can only move the dial so much as, because I feel like we're speaking to lots of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and even if you do have a small team, it's impossible to create all the content and be in all the places. And we all use AI, and we should be completely embracing in that. And yes, we still use AI to help support our content writing and things like that. But there's the element of like, we don't just like copy paste, right? We're going back through to make sure, obviously checking for accuracy, errors. But to make sure that it still sounds like us and still is nailing that. And that's why I don't think AI is replacing, us, but that's where using it as a tool can help improve the production of your content.
For sure.
But that's where I think if you can kind of find that sweet little marriage can help with that AEO aspect of things,
Yeah, definitely. And I think, people have asked me that, I saw someone made a logo off ChatGPT or whatever tool it was, right? Logo AI or something, or built a website. Great. Those aren't the types of people that I want to work with. I want to work with someone that I can collaborate with. I want to have this, and that's one of the like kind of the themes within the agency is that we're not a faceless agency. Like you get to work with people face to face. You get to have these like organic conversations that allow for collaboration and feedback, as opposed to like, okay, well, here's what you're getting. And if you don't, you have this many rounds of edits. I mean, like we have some parameters like that too. But at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons why my business has been successful is because the service is, I believe that there's a premium service, but it's also an experience, right? And I think that same for you. Like you're providing an experience for people that you work with, but also for the people that follow you and that are, like looking to you as somebody who can provide good information. And if they're not, if the experience isn't optimal for them, then they're going to move on and find something else. So I think it speaks a lot to how you can operate as a business owner, but also knowing that we're humans. We want to have connection. We want to feel like there is some quality, to that. And AI can't provide that.
No, I know. Well, and here's kind of another thing that I'm kind of interested in too. Because again, I know that I'm constantly coming from the marketing standpoint, but like sometimes when I'm working with some clients and I do a little consulting here or there, and and I know you do a little bit of this too when it comes to like helping clients, because I feel like you can kind of help when you're having those branding conversations and that initial discussion because I know how thorough you are, because you need to know not only like what the purpose of the brand is, but like how it's going to be used. Because I've had similar conversations when I've done them myself, because it's not just like, here's my colors and fonts and like da-da-da, because like knowing the what and the where and the how, like not only expands your work, but it helps inform like, I'm like, oh snap, I didn't even think, well, yeah, of course I want that and need that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it informs so many things. Because like for me, from my lens, I think about, okay, there's so many pieces of branding that goes into, yes, just the overall like stamp and the things that we place, but when it trickles down into the actual marketing pieces. So like, for instance, I was working with a client that had completely finished their branding kit and their website, and she was like, I need help with social media. So I was doing all these things of just like teaching her a lot of Instagram basics. We would spend time on the phone, like how to create reels and using Canva, and how to take like her, essentially like her media / brand kit, inputting that into Canva, how to create some basic templates, just some like little things that she can, because I was like, again, this is perfect example of like, I'm not going to go from like this point of your business and this with your knowledge of Instagram, be like, okay, now go post 5 reels a week. Like never in a
with
world,
captions and music and
never in a world would I ever say that. Like I would crumble. I still crumble, but but perfect example of, again, using digital medium, and I'm just curious how you are advising some clients because carousels are certainly still a thing. For instance, like one tip that I kind of try to give my clients when we're talking about creating different types of content outside of like photos and videos, like if you're going to, again, every business is different. So I can't sit here and say, this is the advice, because again, it goes back to completely knowing your audience, knowing your product, knowing your service, whatever. But for instance, like I try to be like, especially on Instagram, that's obviously my biggest platform. But stay away from like flyer style graphics. Yeah. There's a time and a place for flyers.
For sure.
But to me, I don't think they belong on Instagram. Well, again, I'm like, there's a yes and a no, but it's like, it depends on how it's done. I just think limiting text is so important on Instagram, but it's doing it strategically.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think it's a combination of, like you said, there's a time and a place, but you've got to we've had this conversation off camera before, you have to make an impact in a small amount of time and in a small kind of visual space, right? Right. People are scrolling fast. And it's like, we want to consume so quickly. And so how can you draw attention how do you stand out? How do you draw attention? A static image may not be the case, or maybe you're using, maybe that's where that branding comes in. There's some pops of color that kind of jar the brain a little bit and say, okay, that caught me off guard. Let me go back and see what that is. Or maybe it's the font styles, or maybe it's the specific word. It depends on your audience. What are they drawn to? And what if you don't know that? Well, then start experimenting, but can you do that in the lens of your brand still, right? Because that's one thing drives me crazy, and this is why, like, I say I don't love social media as as a visual creative, because
Right.
I've seen some beautifully curated Instagram accounts, whether it's the filters or like just like the aesthetic,
Yeah.
or if it's like the templates or whatever. But like, you know, when you go to somebody's account and it's just haphazard, there's no rhyme
Like
or
mine.
reason. I mean, I was saying it's probably like mine, honestly.
Right.
Like, I mean, for the longest time, I was posting fitness videos because I was
Right.
coaching fitness on the side. But it's like, that's me. I'm good with that because I'm not trying to be a curated account.
Right.
I don't need to be a curated account. But, you know, if you're using this, your platform, well, your platform is very curated. I think it has a very cohesive look, feel. Like, I don't know, maybe at the beginning that wasn't.
Ever said, 'cause I was like, I don't know.
But think back to like where you started,
Yeah.
right? And you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go out there, put myself out there. And I think that's part of that process too, is you said something earlier about feeling like an imposter. The amount of times that I have like recoiled into myself being like, who do I think I am?
Oh my
right?
gosh,
Like
daily. Yes.
and it's funny because I mean, I'm generalizing, but I don't
Right.
think that men have that same feeling, or maybe they aren't as like vulnerable to share that they have
For
that feeling,
sure,
right?
for sure.
But also, you have to get to a certain point when you sit back and you think, okay, well, I've done this, or I've built this, or I've been there, I survived.
Yeah.
You know, I have learned so much over the years on what not to do, who not to work with, what contracts not to, right? Like,
Yes.
and it happens because that's part of the experience for the business owner, but then you're also kind of, that helps to inform how you move forward with
Oh my
your
gosh.
interactions. And, you know,
Yeah.
is social media going to be the thing that breaks your business? Absolutely not.
Right.
But can you improve upon it, or can you start creating content that is like more aligned to your business? Sure. And I think it just
Right.
depends on, is your audience even hanging out on Instagram, right?
Right. I mean, you and I, I'm sure, both can think of many examples, and you probably have clients that are fit this bill too, of many, they're, you know, successful businesses that are wildly successful when then you go to their Instagram and it's like womp womp. And that's not always necessarily a problem.
Right.
Because clearly, you know, because, I mean, there's so many ways we can slice that, right? Because, okay, clearly you're generating success, referrals, whatever, without the need for a social media presence, right?
Yeah.
And yes and no. Again, it depends on, again, it goes just back to knowing your business, knowing who your audience is. But, I mean, in this day and age, of course, everyone is craving and wanting and kind of demanding that businesses have a social media presence, and that is important. And that's why I go back to like being consistent, even if consistent means once a month, once a week, whatever. Like, you need to have a heartbeat as opposed to the haphazard like every other month or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you can always build from there, sort of thing. Wait, I'm trying to get back to the point that I was saying. But when we're talking about branding, web design, what do you think are some of the most important? Oh, here it is. What makes the most impactful branding and web design, and why do you think those things matter for small business owners?
That's a great question. So, and it's also the same kind of answer, right? It depends on the business. It depends on the audience. It depends on the goals. If you're a nonprofit, it's going to be positioned a lot differently than if you're a service-based business. And if you're a service-based business that has really affordable services, it's going to be different than if you're a service-based business that's got very premium services, right? But I think the broad answer to that question is you have to consider what is authentic to you and how can you tell that story. It goes back to that storytelling aspect, I think.
Yeah.
So having everything aligned to your core values, what you offer, the value that you provide, not only the value that you have for your, like the core of your business, but the value that you provide to your clients, and like what is that unique value proposition that you offer, and how are you getting in touch with your audience? Are they people, or your clients, your prospective customers, people that would need to work with you on a regular basis? Are you, I don't know, I'm going to throw out, like, are you a dentist and you have, have these sort of consistent patients that come and you need to create a certain experience for them so that they continue to come back and then they get referrals? Or are you a home builder where you're only really going to get one shot to seal the deal with that client because it's likely that you're never going to build another home for them, right? And so I think it just really depends on what the ultimate goal is. And so like with a website, for example, I always tell my clients, like, you need to be clear in your messaging. There's some really catchy taglines out there. It's like, I don't know, you're a financial management firm, and it's like sailing into your future, and it's like, okay, great, that's awesome, but like, what do you do? Right. We provide comprehensive financial management solutions for baby boomers. I don't know, right? Like, but like, how can you use that messaging, right, to communicate it instantly? But then also, like, then once somebody knows exactly what it is that you do, then what do you need them to do? So that's the call to action on the website, right? Yeah. Contact us, schedule a call, like whatever it is. Like, I think get started is very popular, but I think get started is too vague, where it's like, well, what do I start doing, right? Just tell people what you want them to do and give them that journey.
Wait, that's the tagline right there. Tell people which is true. I mean, that same principle is used in social media. We have to, you know what I mean? Because again, a website medium is going to be very different than social media content, the way it's being digested, but you're using the same CTA, call to action principle, that frankly, every piece of content, every piece, like flyer, you know what I mean? Like, has to have
QR code, scan this. And then the scan, when you go to the website, it's going to tell you what to do next, right?
Yes, we have to be told what to do, because otherwise, we're trying to, funnel or direct, our little sheep, right?
Well, much like our children, right? Here it is again.
This is how we're talking about motherhood, right?
Full circle. Tie the shoe.
Yes.
Put the shoe on, then tie, right? Like, you have to give people instruction, because people know what they want, but they don't know what you want. It's like, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Your husband or your partner's not a mind reader. Yeah. Like, you can't, why didn't you know that I wanted you to do the dishes? Like, I also shouldn't have, but right? Like, it's those types of things where if you prompt them, then it can kind of train, and then it informs the behavior of the next customer or the next visitor of the website or the next person that clicks on your story or whatever, right?
Well, and I think this kind of goes back to exactly why we're having this conversation in the first place. Like, you can say that what you do isn't directly marketing, but in its core element, everything that you do is marketing, because without those elements, the person couldn't effectively market.
Correct.
Right. And same, like, and then what I do obviously is more direct, marketing for sure. But I think of the example all the time. Like, you can have the greatest product in the world, the greatest service in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then it doesn't matter. You can be walking by, but if I've never heard about it, if you don't talk about it, you can't assume that I know.
Right.
Yes, influence is great and reputation is great, brand reputation, brand recognition, but marketing is really everything. And every business is different with their marketing approach, how much they need to market and how, but it goes back to, it is still our job. I say our job as entrepreneurs, as business owners, to market, we have to be the ones to repeatedly say it over and over again, even if it is the same words, or do our A/B testing, whether it's in the words that we're doing or the content that we're changing, right? To kind of keep putting that material out there.
Right. And I can't remember if we talked about this on camera or off camera, but the social proof, I mean, that in itself is so powerful. I think we touched on that. But even I asked you about your camera, and you said, let me talk about the camera. But it wasn't that, you weren't marketing the camera. No. You were telling me a story about how this camera has been impactful for you. And I'm like, okay, cool, I want that. Right? And I think that is whatever you call it, influencing, marketing. It is sharing an experience. It all comes down to, I think, that the same, like every single conversation that we've had, micro conversation, and this has gone back to...
I swear that I actually, if you crack me open, there is a regular, I don't know about regular, there is a human being and not just an influencer in there, but that's the problem. I'm too far gone.
We're wired like that now. And I don't necessarily think maybe it's from social media, I don't know, but I mean, I know that if I've had a good, I love a good Google review. I love if I had a good experience. You better believe I'm giving you 5-star Google review.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's the truth.
And I mean, and you think about the way people give feedback, right? It's either 1 star, I hated it, was all.
Oh my gosh.
You don't want a 3-star review because that's just meh. You don't want to be meh. Like I'd rather get a 1 star so that I can take that, like whatever that feedback and then work to make it better.
Yes.
Right. But I mean, who doesn't want to hear just like praises from the 5 stars? But
Right.
It is like, I mean, think about how you shop. If you're buying something online, I'm gonna look at the reviews. Is it true to, like if I'm buying clothes, is it true to size? Is it like frequently returned? Like I want to know this stuff,
yes,
right?
That's so important.
And so I mean, how do you infuse that into service provider or, into a brand? It's an arm and an extension of a brand, but it all goes back to what are you doing for your audience and what are you doing for from the core of your existence, right?
I know. Well, I mean, I'm trying to decide which prong. I have 2 other questions in my head, and I'm like, well, there's only so much time. And then this is just part 1 of the things that we want to discuss.
We can keep going for sure.
I know, because I'm like, okay, well, here I'll let you decide. Okay. Which one do you want to talk about more? Because I have a question on website and email. Maria's choice.
I mean, I'm web all day long, so I would prefer web. But I mean, what are you thinking?
Let's talk about web. So when you're, well, I'm kind of like asking this question kind of from the lens of like, okay, like, let's talk to some of those business owners, those entrepreneurs that like, yeah, they've got their established website. What do they need to keep either doing with their website? Because the answer isn't always a rebrand. Their answer isn't always like, let's start from scratch and build a whole new website. I feel like I have a friend that said, I mean, granted, they're a large medical group, right? And so they're using a whole different agency when they're, doing their website and stuff like that. But I feel like since I've known them in the last 15 years, I feel like they've done at least 3 websites in that time. And that to me feels like a lot. Again, that's in a completely different genre that I know nothing about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're also,
well, the industry is dependent.
Right? Like 7-8 figure business. You know what I mean? Yeah. So very different. But what do we say to these businesses? Like, okay, and I guess we're assuming that, if they're not maybe getting the hits on the website or the traffic that they're looking for, what do you say to those types of individuals?
So, yeah, and a lot of times that is kind of like where the work comes from. It's that, okay, we've lived online for a long time. We've established what we would call domain authority. So, like, if you search them, people can find them. Maybe they're decent. Their rankings are decent on Google, even though they don't have really much SEO. It's because they've lived online for so long.
Yeah.
But it could come along the same lines as a rebrand, or it could come along the lines of, okay, well, now our website's just not keeping up with the times, right? Like there's sites out there that are still not mobile optimized. There are websites out there that aren't optimized for, different devices, or maybe there's like integrations that are old and outdated, so they're clunky, they break the site, they don't allow the site to function optimally in terms of like performance and speed and all that kind of stuff. It makes for a negative user experience.
Yeah.
And you think about a website that you visited and you're like, all right, this isn't loading, or I'm trying to get to what I want and I can't. I'm gonna go find something else, right? And people leave. And so in a lot of cases, clients will come and say, listen, our business is fine, but in order for us to continue to scale or to potentially expand into different markets or whatever, like we cannot continue to operate from where we are currently. Right. And so in some cases, it may not be a full rebuild. Maybe it's just, okay, now we need to revamp some of your messaging. Your visuals are outdated. We've got to get you some fresh visuals. Maybe your team has turned over so many times that the custom photography on the website is outdated, right? And then there's always going to be like visual trends, right? Like, back in the day, it was like that sort of magazine layout was very clean and sleek. And in some cases, it still looks great. It just really depends on what type of content you're sharing. If you're service-based, how many pages is the site? How much recurring or dynamic content do you have? So I would say to a business that is maybe comparing themselves, if you do like a sort of this competitive analysis, look at a variety of businesses that are local to you and maybe more global, but are in your industry.
Yeah.
And you can tell, I mean, either you check the copyright on the website, or you can look at a website and you can tell that that was updated maybe 2020. 2020 was a big year for websites, by the way, if you can imagine. I mean, gosh,
that's
people,
personal.
I mean, that's when I went kind of, I was doing some like part-time coaching at the time, and I stopped working at the gym, and then I was like, all right, well, now I'm like all in, because people were like, hey, I got to get back online. I've been offline for a few years, and now I can't operate without a web presence, right? No. But typically is your user experience still aligned to what you want your users to do? Going back to that CTA, is your visual branding and just like kind of overall like aesthetic aligned to your existing brand?
Yeah.
And then are there some specific reasons why you would need to rebuild, and why is this the right time? And a lot of times, like, we'll do discovery calls with clients and kind of go down that rabbit hole of like, well, why now, right?
Yeah.
And some clients are like, I don't know, it just felt like the right time, or I don't know, we've been talking about this for months, and we now have a marketing person that we can use to kind of like be the point person for this project, right? Like, there's always different circumstances there. And I mean, I've gone to different websites that are maybe, someone that I'm a provider that I'm seeing for whatever reason. I think, I could totally help them get their website looking and feeling a little bit more 2025. Yeah. But I don't necessarily, I try. I'm also like sales is not my thing.
Oh my gosh, right? I mean, we're not in this world. That's why I hired Jill, because I was like, I can't. That's not my language. I don't speak it. But
right. But I think just if there's, I also know that not everybody has a website manager. So your website goes live in 2021, and nobody's made any content updates to it since 2021. And 4 years later, you're like, well, crap, I've got this person no longer works there. This messaging's outdated. Our office address is done, right? Like, so like, at what point do you not necessarily rebuild, but at what point do you need somebody to come in and just make those edits and make sure that it's also like there's back end stuff that needs to be optimized, server thing, like all that tech nerdy stuff. But that's something that I like to provide to clients, because it's also peace of mind. Like, if you are busy running a business, the last thing you want to have to worry about is like dealing with like tech support for your website.
I know.
Right.
I know. So. Well, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, but it's like your website is kind of like your front door, right? For sure. And if it's, dusty, it's not going to be too inviting. If the handle's broken, they're not going to be able to get in. Yep. And I feel like, again, as business owners especially, we're creatives, clearly, you know what I mean? So it's easy to spend, obviously, a lot of time in this space and paying attention to all of that. But I realize we know that all business owners don't have that luxury, because you are in a million places at one time. So it's like, you're like, I just need this done so I can kind of keep doing da-da-da-da-da, right? Yeah. But that it does... I hate to sound so annoying, but it all goes back to branding. If you need to make your website functionally optimized and functional in the organization, in the layout, in the look, in the verbiage, and the userability and the experience, right?
Yep, for sure.
And all of those, it needs to hit all those points while also always coming back to branding, and that's... You can
easily audit your website for that stuff too. And that's something like, people have those freebies on their website. That was always like an intention of mine, a lead form. One day, maybe one day, but like audit your website or audit your brand, right? Like, just, you can do that. Use ChatGPT. Go back and talk to ChatGPT about where you're at. That's something that any business owner could do on their own time.
And there's
to just
nothing wrong with using AI for all of these tools, right? That's
serving a purpose.
Yes, exactly. Right. Using it as a tool, right? They're tools. That's the whole point. So, well, listen, on that note, I feel like this is welcome to my brain, where I kind of just jump around all over the place. But
I'm here with you.
I know. Thank you so much for nerding out with me today as we talked about all things like digital and websites and branding, because I think that's so important. And, it's something that I'm always trying to remind myself of, going back to like who we are as TCM, what I am, what I'm doing. I mean, I'll get all these ideas, and even my own business consultant be like, that's great, but remember, this is what we're focusing on. He's like, where do you want to be in a year or 5 years from now? And I'm like, shut up.
Right? I know. You got to have that third party to kind of reel you in.
Exactly.
It's annoying, but like, yes, it is good for us.
Like, fine. Okay. But thank you so much. I'm really excited to kind of put this material together and to go from there. And, like I said, Maria's helping us with our, refresh the email newsletters. I know speaking of emails, I have emails to get back to you on, which
all in good time.
I was like, we'll get there. Like, you were traveling, I was traveling, and now we're getting back into it.
School's starting next week.
I know.
It'll be a different ball game.
Different ball game for sure.
Yeah.
All right, girl.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of MomTalk Maryland. If you loved it, leave a review, share it with a friend, or tag me at the.columbiamom on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep supporting local, and keep being the incredible mom, woman, human that you are.